is there only one developer? I just can't wrap my mind around that. It's if it is really that good, surely there's at least one other person on this planet that wants to help make it. And if there's only one, then is it because of them or lack of documentation or pivoting too much or whatever it is? I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But that's actually very good to know because I have GunDB on my list of things to learn, and as I'm looking around on Ceramic, it just looks a lot better.
Yeah, and I've talked to the Orbit DB people a lot, like quite a lot, a year or so ago, and done a couple things with them. And they're a good group of people. They have some like sort of an organization set up, but they don't have a lot of backing behind it. I think what's likely going to happen with them, not that this is for sure, is they're going to align more towards Ceramic and build it as something they kind of build around Ceramic, because Ceramic is like a great base layer for effectively having data sets that are mutable, but it's not really that same kind of database as what OrbitDB might try to accomplish. So I think they might end up going that route eventually. I don't know if it'll happen anytime soon, but I think that's something to keep an eye on. But who knows?
Well, in any event, we have a great need for one of them soon. So at very least, I think I should fuck around with most of them, see what the differences are. Because I think that the big project for the front end for me is really going to be we really do need a decentralized GitHub or some kind of basic ass Git repository. And I think that the building it all in front end JS, not having a centralized server is absolutely the way to do it. So as to mitigate the whole dictatorship thing / Microsoft taking shit down. And
but you are going to need some server. Like you're going to need something to store and persist the content and make it all fast to use. But you can try to make the architecture at least so it's more flexible to tolerating servers going down or something going down.
Well, I mean, what exactly would you need a server for with Git?
I mean, like the main thing is it's not going to survive on a single like computer all the time. I mean, like it certainly can survive, but it's not something that is necessarily reliable if you have your computer turned off or if
for sure,
hardware failed, stuff like that. And and realistically, like especially with firewalls and other things like that, it's a lot harder to do that on completely consumer devices. I mean, you can do it. Like there's projects like that, well, which is now called Hypercore, that effectively do somewhat of a Git system, not entirely. And it works and it's fine. And it might not work all the time, but certainly for like the more reliable type systems, you should ideally have you should have a local client that stores everything, and then also a server to help speed up the mirroring and keep backups and everything like that.
Right. That all makes sense. Yeah. My thing would be Git can basically do it's like a bundle. You can pre-compute all of the information that you need to store with the Git program on your desktop. And all of that statically generated content can actually be saved in IPFS as it is right now. So if I wanted to push all of my code, I could just upload it all to my IPFS node. Now, you're absolutely right about the whole you need your server to be on thing. But one of the directions that I'm trying to take DTube is having a better backend, I guess, where things are packaged together. So when a leader who is non-technical wants to run the Avalon blockchain, they can just start up this program and they'll be running IPFS node as well as the Avalon blockchain, the REST API, and so on and so forth. So why don't we just have it hard-coded that they have to pin certain repositories, such as all the static assets for the website and the Git code and all this other stuff. So now when you're a leader, you're not only just leader of the blockchain and you get to mine, but you also have a responsibility to serve up minimized static assets.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then it's technically serverless. It's an opt-in thing. No one person has ultimate control. Every leader has just as much control as any other leader. Then the whole idea of like revitalizing the vote system. becomes suddenly more effective. So if we have our own decentralized Git, then we can tie that into the Avalon voting system, however we may wish to do that, so that when code changes get made, we can all put a vote in as to whether or not we approve these code changes. That way, again, no one person has ultimate control. Each leader has to vote, and then it'll be some sort of calculation to determine whether or not it gets through. But that's the plan anyways.
It sounded all legit to me.
There is not going to be a single product that you can show me that's going to be able to do what I want it to do, because even GitHub relies on a single account. And even if we had all of us had the password, somebody could change the password. So
Well, have you
almost
heard of
everything will come
Radical?
close. Radical? No, I haven't.
It's a project that's trying to do a decentralized Git. Let me send you the link.
I've seen at least 4 or 5 so far, stretching from about early 2016 to about 2019.
Yeah, here, this has been fairly recent.
It's just, I don't know why. Most of the information that I've been looking up into its feasibility seems to check out, so why haven't they been able to do it?
Yeah, it is kind of odd. I've seen numerous projects trying to do this thing, but nobody actually succeeds at doing it.
Like, I get that the whole idea of cloning GitHub is a humongous undertaking, but we don't need a marketplace or Explorer. We don't need the fucking project management weird thing that they got going on. But
Well, that's kind of important.
well, yes and no, because do we need project management built into Git? Because I don't think that that's the way we want to go. Project management built into Git usually makes it so that only developers use it. I'd much rather have a UI that's a little more versatile for everybody, because it's becoming apparent to me that there are quite a few leaders who aren't severely technical, and so it would help them out a lot if we sort of generified things a little bit, so it's not so technical.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. If you look at the project management side, there is some tie-in like of PRs and issues and stuff like that, but it's more like very generalist, the project management stuff on Git. That's that same sort of format as seen elsewhere quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Other than like the linking and all that, then having stuff get moved when something's done. It's
Yeah.
fairly standard.
My point isn't that it
As
can't
one
be
of the
done.
least technical leaders sits here pumping out a stream of everybody chatting about being non-technical.
My point wasn't that it couldn't be done. It absolutely can be done. It's just I don't want to have the first iteration be this encompassing. I want the first iteration to be really just, we'll run GitHub in tandem with this until we can finally detach.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's probably going to be the same situation, song and dance, with the House of Commons thing that I'm trying to do with the automated translator and all of that. That's another system that even if you were to make it compatible with something like Discord, it still just wouldn't make sense.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's got to be a decentralized voice server with automated translation built in. So it's going to be pretty cool, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I don't know what that'll look like.
Well, the recording for this conversation is going to be put through the pipeline that I have right now, like the prototype pipeline, to see how well it can pick up on translation from voice to text, text to different languages, and then reading it back out again.
What kind of hardware are you using for that, or ML stuff? Like, what are you doing for that?
Let's see here. There is.
Like, how old are you guys? Like, in terms of development experience?
Development experience. That is a good question. I'm self-taught, so I've been programming for a long time, but I don't know for how long very seriously.
Yeah, likewise, I've been doing a lot of development for like past 3 to 5 years. This is like
Mm.
so.
I'm like a bit noob out here. I'm 18. I started developing around 16, so like around 2 years. But I'm like recently discovering all the decentralized apps and all. So currently I'm participating in a hackathon. So for that I needed to make an authentication system that is like decentralized, or we may have to use public cryptography for that. So like, can you like suggest me some good project that has like some good documentation on how I can implement it as a like first time user? I have never built any dApp before.
Oh, I would suggest Hive. If you're
Hive.
wanting to go with a social-oriented dApp.
Yeah, I was thinking of making like AngelList clone.
Well, so
Oh,
I'm not sure I understand the scope of what you're trying to do exactly.
I just wanted to make like there is OAuth, so I don't want to use any centralized servers for
Oh,
authentication.
I see. Yeah, you can. I'd probably suggest using like private public key authentication or something along that line, along those lines. There's a lot of great libraries for doing that. They're available.
Can you suggest me some libraries?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find you a good ECDSA library or something like that. It's been a while since I looked into that. What language do you develop in? Node.js, JavaScript?
Yeah. Node.js and Golang, Rust.
Let me go look.
These are all so new. I learned Java 6. I still
mhm.
think MFC's a thing.
NFC?
MFC.
Oh, MF.
Yeah, the Microsoft Foundations class from Visual C6.
Oh.
I
Isn't
learned
that where
like
you can like embed visual or like C# into your web page for Visual
well,
Basic?
Visual C was it was like Visual Basic Form Designer kind of thing for C++ versions from the early 2000s. The problem that I have, I think, is I've been programming for maybe 10 years, but everything that I learned was about 5 years out of date when I learned it. So I learned like SOAP and XML was new when I first started learning about it. So all this decentralized apps and JavaScript front end, I haven't played with that very much at all.
Morning, guys.
Hey,
Welcome, Steaminator.
What's up?
Another wonderful get together for us leaders, the first of this particular setup. Hopefully, we have a bit more structure going forward than we have previously.
Obviously, this is like really a sign that we start of because like takes so much time to organize and the work process. Obviously, like most of us, like years.
Most definitely. It could be so much quicker if we were just all in the same time zone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can get a bunch of money and get a hotel or something and have a DTube retreat
I'd go
someday.
straight up. I'll be your host. Anybody wants to pay for the hotel, I'll be the host. You guys just gotta like get me there.
Are you implying we stay at your house, Duke?
if you guys end up wanting to come to Saskatchewan when I buy a house out that way, maybe. I might even have property. We could just do like a bring a trailer and stay on the property kind of thing.
There you go.
Well, we're T-minus 1 minute.
I don't remember when was the last time. 8 a.m. The sun is bright.
Yeah, it must just be coming up for you. I think, what were we starting off with exactly there? Deckard, you got it all kind of entry lined up, or did you want me to try lead in with something?
Well, I've got right now just show intro is the first thing, and then introducing people. Then we'll get into the 5 bullet points that I outlined. Then I figured we'd go into question and comments, and then we'll just shoot the shit till we feel like we're done.
Sounds good enough to me.
All right, perfect. So I guess I'll leave you to do the show intro, being the show host and all.
Yeah. I guess it is that time then. Let's do this. If Tib Fox was here, I guess Steaminator could do an everyone ping if he feels inclined. Give a ping for everybody, and we'll kick this off. The very first DTube leader meeting, organized by myself and Deckard Kane. I'm doing the vocal part of it, hosting and recording, putting out a live stream on the One Love community. So if you're watching, the pre-show has been running, and we're going to be documenting everything as best we can, thanks to Deckard Kane, who's doing a large portion of the organizing and structuring and has some big plans of his own, hoping to have incorporated into DTube. Now, anyone from One Love community, a lot of the topics we've been pinging around in the DIP channel are going to be brought up through these conversations. So, stay tuned, and here is Deckard Kane for you.
Woot. Hi, everybody. I am not very good at public speaking. I'm probably going to be very factual. Don't take it personally. I just wanted to start out by saying, yes, I have a lot of plans of my own. I've spent a couple of years doing a lot of research into a big project that I want to start, which is basically going to be a rival of archive.org. And so, to that effect, I need audio players, video players, DMCA servers, basically everything that DTube needs, I also need. I've noticed a few different things that we need to address, partly structure, as Dookie was mentioning. So these meetings are hopefully going to be a regularly occurring meeting that most of us will join into. I'm hoping to have more leaders as time goes on, and perhaps a little bit more polished up as time goes on. But for now, our 5 bullet points are gaining users, the economy, developers, public relations, and then directions and next steps. So if any leader wants to talk on any of these points, just let me know as we iterate through them, and then you'll get a chance to speak on it. There'll be areas for rebuttal, and so on and so forth. Usually the way that these sorts of meetings go when I've been a part of other ones like this is leaders would get 5 minutes to talk. There'd be a 2-minute rebuttal, 2 more minutes given to the leader to rebut the rebut, and then it would go on to a voting system. As of now, we don't really have a voting system, and I'd like to keep it a little bit less formal. But basically, when the topic comes up, if you have something that you'd like to say about it, say so, and then we can kind of talk around that topic amongst the people that have joined us today. In addition to all of this, I'm testing an automated translation pipeline. Essentially, what this pipeline will do is it's trying to translate the words that you're saying now into text. That text can be translated into different languages, and that text can then be read back to you through a text-to-speech program. So in effect, the automated pipeline would make it so that when I talk in English, you would hear a, say, German voice coming out the other side. So try and talk as clearly as you possibly can. It'll probably help a lot with translation. Aside from that, I just wanted to introduce everybody and see if everybody could just say hello so that we know what your voice sounds like. Of course, I'm Deckard Cain. Everybody knows who Dookie is. Vault-Tech's with us. And Steaminator. Say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
And yeah, so hopefully this gets relatively productive. The main goal of this is I just want to get things documented. That's why I'm trying to get this unedited recording out. Dookie's making some edited stuff. There's live streams with the One Love community. There will also be transcript of the meeting minutes for people to read if that's your preferred way. And so all of that will be available after the fact. I'm going to just post that in the general board under discussions on the DTube channel, and I'm sure it'll make its way over to One Love as well. So without further ado, I guess we should get started. First topic up, I guess, is gaining users. Rather than continue to hear me talk, does anybody want to talk about tactics, gaining users, what you feel we should be doing in this area, anything else like that?
Yeah, I think I can clearly say some stuff about these things.
All right.
Because I know the relevant data we got in the. Wait, I mean, sell some. Okay. I remember some of the relevant data we had with the launch of the blockchain or the even testnet period. So, like, there were some bots on the sign up page, but when we get the organic users we got in the mainnet period, it was like 400 accounts per day, and it kept increasing to an extent. But the problem is in the numbers. When you check the accounts people got, the retention rate is close to 1%. So, which retention rate 1% means they either didn't buy the token or they didn't even do simple things like changing the profile picture or transacting on the blockchain. So when we talked about this issue, like how to increase the retention rate and stuff, I only came up to like one result, and I would like to hear what you guys actually want. What do you think about this? The thing is, like, I mean, we have been all in DTube for a couple of years, and obviously some of the new leaders. I really think the learning threshold is too confusing for a new user. The concept of VP, buying the DTC, and also like the gamification part, I mean the token aspect. When people get DTC, staking it, they wouldn't know like if they are doing good or not in terms of curation, because all the data we display on the website is quite confusing. And my first solution to that was like creating a mini tutorial. Like when the signups are solved, because signups are problematic right now as well. I think a simple four-step tutorial or even a static image that's explaining the systems and what people need to do in 4 or 5 steps would increase these numbers. Like this is mostly not about, it's about gaining users, obviously, but I think this is an important aspect we need to discuss in terms of user gains, because what's the point? I mean, we can get new users, but if we can't keep them, it will be always problematic.
I actually completely agree about that, and that's one of the reasons why I think the 5 bullet point list that I have should be the same every meeting. We should always talk about gaining new users. Specifically right now, I couldn't agree more that the learning curve is quite high. I myself needed to be explained what all of the different things do and how they interact with each other, but now that I understand it, it's fairly straightforward. I think one of the things that we can do immediately to retain users that are currently coming to the platform is by gifting them DTC when they post things that you like. So what I've been doing is every time a new user comes that I'm thinking, okay, they're not obviously not taking just movies and uploading them. They seem to be uploading either things that are of relevance to them or creations of their own. And so far, I don't know what the exact numbers are, and perhaps at some point we can get some sort of metric generated on this, but I think that it's fairly successful. The issue that new users have, I think the number one issue is that if you create a new account, you have 2 options for success. One is hoping to God somebody upvotes some of your content so that you can get some DTC after waiting 7 days,
And
or by
also,
actually spending money. But the spending money part, I think, is complex. Even now, I'm not exactly sure how to do it, even though I've done it once. Because I used to do it through Coinbase and then through MetaMask, and that worked. And now there's Uniswap involved and all this other stuff. And I personally don't know enough about crypto to figure it out on my own. I'm usually trying to figure out other things, so I just haven't taken the time. But certainly for normal users, what I normally coined as normies, people who aren't technically inclined, the idea of having to purchase something without knowing exactly whether or not it's something you want is kind of difficult. So I guess in summary, to boil it down really quick, I think we should stop gaining new users altogether right now. I think that the thumbnail uploader issue has caused a lot of people to be very sour. I think that we need to rethink what is required for a new user to get off the ground. I know that Hyman Danger is working on the login system to get away from keys to something that people understand a little bit better. But even more than that, I think that we're missing a lot of key features that other platforms have, such as playlists. And we need a dramatic facelift as to what we're telling users, because we're still telling users that curation is a big thing, when I think it's pretty clear that the community doesn't want that. So that's my point on it. I think for the time being, we ought to slow down with the users thing and maybe focus on some other bits before we get back to this. Because I think no matter what we do right now, we're just not going to be able to make users stick around in the way that things presently work.
Yeah. I would actually like to merge what both of you said. The putting kind of the brakes on trying to forcibly sign up new people until we have the pieces in place. Like Steaminator mentioned, the walkthrough, like a simple 4 or 5 part walkthrough that is in your face, you can't avoid it, as well as the sign up. But one aspect that I want to also mention is this question of content originality and how we're currently self-filtering through it and making a decision. Me and Deckard's relationship began around this question, and now we're working together to try find a solution that works for both of us. That's kind of where it all started for us. But I have largely championed we need a route for users to verify they're posting their own content that works within the options we've provided. So if someone can post third-party content, they should be able to verify that it's legitimately their channel. Otherwise, we're essentially opening the door to allowing users to share others' content and be rewarded for it. The alternative to that is what Deckard suggested, which was no payout. If there's no payout on my content, then there's no question of just backing it up for the sake of having a reference. As he was saying, he's trying to create an archive.org, and I actually respect that incentive behind his actions, right? So it should be something we address on like the foundation of the tools that we have for the people that we're trying to bring to the platform before we even try push them in the door. It's like, what direction are they going? They don't know. They're all just crowding around the door.
Yeah, like that's pretty much it. To boil it down even simpler, it feels to me like we just don't have a unified vision. Nobody really knows what DTube is meant for. And the problem is a bunch of different people are coming in trying to use it for what they think it should be used for. Example, the whole curation thing I thought was kind of interesting, though I think there's several flaws with it. I think it's cool that we can post other content and kind of get people to know who we are based on what we're sharing. But a decline payout option, I don't know how that would work, but I do know that it's not a good idea to be allowing people to be paid based off other people's content, even if it is admittedly content that they still do get paid for, even when embedded into other sites. So it's not as though we're taking away money from them, but we're generating money in ways that should go to them. So my personal opinion, the two best ways to fix this is one, get rid of curation altogether. I just don't see how this can legally work. And two, instantiating a DMCA system. And I think the very basic way that the DMCA would work is, well, first off, we have to admit it's never going to work 100%. Anything we do with DMCA or bots, it's never going to work 100%. You're simply required to do the best that you can. So my proposal is I have systems for detecting audio tracks and whether or not those are copywritten audio tracks. Video is an interesting thing that I'm still trying to get into. Now that I have beefier equipment, I can do that. But the plan is to make a system that would look through IPFS content and determine rather quickly whether or not this is content that should be posted. And if not, we should apply a flag in the system. And I think that that should be tied to a reward system. So similar to the way that we are rewarded for validating transactions, we should be rewarded for validating whether or not content is kosher.
Yeah.
I agree with that part. That last statement, I totally agree with. The validating part. Now, automation, I question, but validation by community, I agree with.
About this topic, like I had an idea like a couple of weeks ago because we had an issue with the copyright content, and it was like a super gore. We talked it in Leader channel. You saw it. Then like, do you guys know the Overwatch system on the Steam games? Like for abusive behavior and bad stuff, they let community watch the games and rate the player. It's like perfectly suitable for the both systems, but I don't know if it's actually achievable in a decentralized way on chain.
I actually think it's perfectly reasonable to be able to do this. And the reason why I think that it would be is supposing you're able to upload a video to DTube. That upload has to be verified. That's a transaction that must be verified through the blockchain. So what we've already established is there's a pipeline between us and sorry, I lost my train of thought. There's a pipeline between the uploader and the leader. The leader has to verify something that the uploader's done. Why can't we just extend that function simply beyond a transaction and say we need to also verify another bit of this transaction and make it, say, a second stage thing where you can verify the transaction first, it gets published, and then say there's some sort of setting for users who say, I only want to see approved non-DMCA content. I think that it's totally doable through software. What I want to avoid is debates on whether or not it's doable, and focus on debates on whether or not this is something that we would like to try and do. Because my biggest problem isn't making things work. My biggest problem is, what do y'all want? If we want a DMCA system, I can do that. One that detects gore, one that detects sex, that's easy. It's not a big deal. How expensive it's going to be on your hardware, whether or not we're going to be able to embed that into the blockchain, I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'd at very least like to come up with a prototype.
I think we will obviously need it if we reach like critical amount of users, because then content moderation and community curation will be the main thing focus the organization, because like there will be always some people like uploading stolen content, vulgar stuff, and I think instead of us, community needs to decide whether it should be on the site, I meant the UI, or not, and they can be rewarded as curation rewards.
Yeah, I agree with that. Basically, one of the things that I've said to a few different people is I am not interested in making a website that is authoritarian in any way. I want a website where if crazy, weird porn people want to do their thing, then do it, but I don't want to see it. So I want it so that there are settings for just about every flag in the system, so that if you are the type of person that wants an unadulterated view of what's on the blockchain, then you should be allowed to do so. Or if you're a 60-year-old devout Christian, there'd be settings in there for you as well. The point that I'd really like to emphasize here is I can't make any of these changes without understanding what our morals are. Is this a platform where anything can be posted? Or is this a platform where we are removing things that are overly gory or things that are copywritten or what have you? Because as of now, we aren't removing anything. Everything is still there. It's just hidden.
Yeah.
It's mostly because we get so few DMCA stuff yearly, but everyone is aware that it's an important issue to be solved if we actually get used. And or I mean, I did a curation for a while. DTube. I was watching videos curating real users. I think the line starts with the super graphic, gore, and adult content, and copyright issue is an only problem. Like, let's say that you really like the video on YouTube, you use the third party link to share it on another platform and use DTube as a like mirror. Uh, I think it's perfectly fine, but if someone is like claiming that, oh, this content is mine and trying to make money off someone else's content without giving a credit, uh, yeah, that's a problem. I think the red line is like bluntly stealed, stolen, copyrighted content, and super extreme gore stuff. But like politics, propaganda, and other stuff, uh, I don't think like we should like do anything about. I mean, it's a decentralized, censorship-free platform. If we like go to the level of shadow banning or even like completely nuking people's content, I mean, it completely uses purpose. So yeah,
Yeah,
it should be free in some extent.
I personally am very invested in the type of platform where there is absolutely no censorship. I understand that there's a great need for limiting views on extremist content, for example. There are people who would prefer to also include misinformation in the same category as extreme gore slash, extraordinarily illegal acts. My thing personally isn't whether or not it's on the blockchain. That doesn't concern me. What majorly concerns me is that blockchain data saved on my computer? Because if there is any shred of evidence that there is ISIS information on my computer, I do not want it there. Because I live in a place where my government cannot be trusted. They will haul me away faster than I can blink an eye. And under that sort of system, I have to be very careful with what I do and do not save. And in DTube's current incarnation, I'm a little weary about keeping that data on my system. So my personal opinion is I must insist on a system where I can remove certain blocks from, or at least the data inside the block from my drive. so that you can say, yes, this block exists, but I don't know what the title is, I don't know what the link to the ID is, and I don't know what this is. But say there's somebody in Sweden who doesn't have the same sort of laws that I do. They can host that content, and we'll make some sort of automated system to say, if you're using my API and I don't have the block, we'll automatically switch to some other place that does. So that's kind of the proposal there. It's good to hear, though, that we're not interested in doing shadow bans or anything like that. I think we should be very forthcoming with the sorts of material that we are not going to allow to be viewed. And whether or not we allow it on the blockchain, I don't know. I don't know how you could even possibly determine what should be allowed and what shouldn't without actually running it through a system, which has its own problems. But
Yeah, I agree with that, where it comes down to the system, and then, as I was saying, it would best be checked again by community, which, as you suggested, would require some sort of incentive to keep people active, which could be all managed by, I don't know, VP and rewards through the blockchain. That kind of goes beyond me. But I mean, there are examples of semi-working systems out there that, as Steaminator mentioned, the gaming platform with a review of gamers, and if people were reviewing posts or likewise other aspects, it's just a matter of putting it together, particularly wondering how your system would handle, like, misinformation, as you said. Things that might not be taken under context, like memes. That's something that is often considered in misinformation. A meme, someone saying the wrong things, an automation system could flag it, right? While community has the opportunity then to disagree with that meme, if it happens to go against the social accepted behavior, then we are kind of like falling into that trap of censoring something for the sake of opinion. And that's a very easy trap to fall into, which then brings back that, why DTubes exist. We're decentralized, you could post whatever. And then it comes down to community curation, which some call censorship when they get flagged. And here we are, wondering how to grow from that trap. I call it a trap in terrible terms, but I mean it in the most positive way. We're stuck in a loop, and how to get out of it.
yeah, well, number one, we got to get that goddamn video off the sign up page. It's the most misleading thing ever. Right after you sign up, you're told about how curation's this wonderful thing. So I mean, I can't blame all the people that are coming in thinking that the platform is X when it's actually Y, and then getting upset about it. Some of the reactions of people is a little extreme. But some things I'd like to touch on about what you said earlier. One, I once met a dude who worked at the border, and he is hands down the most screwed up person I've ever met in my life. And his job was to watch every single piece of media that was ever sent that was flagged as illegal. And he had to watch it from beginning to end, every single second, and write down every single crime that was committed in that video. He did that for 10 years. You don't want to know the sorts of things that he's seen. So when it comes down to extreme gore, murder, things like that, I don't want to flag anybody about it. Just get rid of it, because you're going to screw people up. If it's sexual content, copywritten stuff, that's not nearly as damaging. But I, for one, am not interested in allowing anybody to sit there and watch beheading videos all day. So the automated system's got to be fairly bulletproof. But I think what we've touched on so far, and I think we should probably move on, is we need to revitalize what it is we're telling new users. We need to fix some bugs in the UI. move away from servers, I think is probably a good idea to remove the single points of failure. And for the most part, just rethink what we want DTube to be. I think we're all relatively in agreement that the curation aspect, probably not a good idea. But it's a double-edged sword, because if we remove curation, we'd probably have to remove YouTube as well, and that would mean that our IPFS, Skynet, or BTFS pipeline should be much better. Regardless, I think that's a great start from now. Does anybody have anything else they want to mention before we move on?
Pretty good, I think.
Cool. All right, so the next section is the economy. I'm not exactly sure what we would talk about this time around, but this section is mainly for talking about the health of DTC and what it is that is causing that, or what we can do to improve it. I'm not exactly sure. So I'm hoping that maybe there's something somebody can talk about in this section. If not, we can move on to the next.
I would like to nominate Vaultek, who has been doing a little bit of his own investigations, if he's willing to talk.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of research with Curation Bot and some other sort of metrics gathering. I mean, I don't have anything specific to talk about, so more of like ask me questions or have a specific topic so I can provide knowledge on that. But I don't really have anything specific to mention.
All right. Well,
For now,
you were mentioning the angle of flagging, how flagging has a weird potential to be more rewarding than actually voting, depending on the time. And then how, when we were discussing rewarding the authors, the first vote ends up being the vote that determines the most relative to how much an author takes away. Kind of that whole aspect.
Yeah. So the first thing with that is, so a lot of the curation is sort of done through the metric of someone votes, and then the person who votes after you roughly determines the reward of your post. And so for people who are posting content, they have their initial vote on their post, which is like whatever, like 100,000 VP or whatever it is for that creator that actually has enough DTC to create that amount of VP. But then all of the votes after that will determine the rough reward of that author. However, the votes in between the author's vote and the ones at the end up having a certain reward, effectively a reward curve, depending on how many people vote from the start of the post in. And I'm a bit tired, so I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. But basically, if you vote at the end of that chain, you don't get very many rewards, like hardly any at all. Like you're talking many times lower rewards than you would be if you voted at the beginning of that, which has its strengths and weaknesses. One of them being, if you are a bot, you can vote on a post very early. And I've tested this where I would vote on a very popular author within 30 seconds of it being posted, and I would successfully make a lot more money than if I voted on it 30 minutes later or even 5 minutes later, because all of the people vote after me, which sort of in a way incentivizes bots to do the voting if they can successfully vote more than normal people, which is going to be the case 99% of the time. But on top of that, another thing I've noticed is downvotes actually are a way to somewhat circumvent that. So if, let's just say there's a post that has 5 DTC of rewards and I have 100,000 VP to spend, if I downvote that post, I will be able to get more rewards than if I upvoted that post, because effectively it's not part of that chain. So I don't have to, when you upvote, you have to be effectively somewhat part of that chain that someone has to vote after you in order for your curation rewards to go up. But when you're down voting, it's the opposite, where you take away their rewards, and then you will get the same amount of rewards as if they didn't vote at all. Effectively, the amount of rewards if you voted the post originally. And I'm not exactly sure on the exact metrics, but that is the sort of things I've been observing recently with my curation bot.
So basically,
overview.
what you are saying is like if you download a voted video already with a decent take, we will be basically getting the front run place, right? Because we will be actually deleting the guy's vote and getting the rewards.
I don't think you get the rewards. But once you do counter them, you get the same amount of rewards as if they didn't vote at all. So effectively, downvoting is more profitable than upvoting on posts that has multiple upvotes already. And I mean, in general, like it still is probably better to vote on posts that don't have any votes to begin with, because they're not competing with those other upvotes for rewards. But in terms
It's
of just
all becoming clear.
yeah. So yeah, there's just a lot of variation as well, because there is these cycles that happen with the DTC reward pool, where if you vote at one time of the day, set of days usually, you can get upwards of like 2 times the rewards you would normally get. So the efficiency most of the time is around 50%, but it also spikes up to as high as 85%. Which is the optimal time to vote, and you get a lot more rewards to that. So that's another thing that is important to pay attention to, and there's lots of variation. So like if you have a post that could be a day old, someone that votes in the most optimal time will get the maximum amount of rewards they can get, and that post gets shot way up. Or the author could make a lot more money than originally what they voted at. So there's a lot of variation. That's sort of the rough sort of things I've been starting to figure out with the curation from just raw testing.
That's all stuff that I actually find very, very valuable. I think it's a little bit difficult to create a bit of a list as to what sort of things we need to fix with that, but I think I understand exactly what you're saying, and I've kind of picked up on some of these little issues like this myself. I did have a talk with another leader about the great possibility for abuse on DTube, just with the way that things are set up. Without giving away the ghost, if you're clever enough, we could have quite the problem on our hands. The thing that I'm calling for is a complete rework of all of these systems. Not to say that they're bad, but that they're not going to scale. So all of the pricing for, this is just a very quick example because I was working with this earlier today. The Avalon's configuration file, it's in, I think it's config.js. I can't quite get to it right now. My internet's being a piece of shit. But anyways, they're preset values. So when you get charged to recreate your username based on the character length, all of that computation is done statically. It doesn't scale with the value of DTC. So if all of a sudden one DTC is worth $1,000, the username is still going to cost you just as much. And that's kind of true with a lot of bits of the system. The VP rewards don't scale. The amount of DTC that you need to burn to promote a video doesn't scale. So all of these things should, like, it should cost me less DTC burnt to promote a video today if it's worth $1 than it would in 10 days from now when it's worth $100, if you know what I mean. Even
That's
more to
genius.
that point, the VP system is stacked in the odds of people who have been here for a long time, because the amount of DTC you get increases the amount of VP, plus the 100 VP you get for mining a block means that if you're a leader and you've been around here for a long time, you're not really dethronable. And that can pose a problem for a lot of reasons, not specifically right now because we don't have any leaders that need dethroning, but should somebody get clever enough to weasel their way into 3 or 4 spots with just one person in the leader ranks, then there should be some sort of system to get them out. And as of right now, the whole system just really isn't designed for that. It's still designed in the way that there are certain people in charge and those people wield the power, which should always be the case, but not in this setup. I think each leader should have just as much power. I don't personally care about the power, but it helps for, I guess, stability. So I don't know exactly how we would change all of these things, but even just from what Vaultek's saying, it's kind of becoming clear to me that a lot of this needs to be revitalized. And this is certainly not my area of expertise. So we do need more people contributing data about the, and part of my tactic to doing that is switching databases, or at least being compatible with both Mongo and MariaDB, so that you can do statistical analysis with SQL queries in MariaDB as opposed to doing it all through JSON, because not many people know how to do that. So the plan that I have, at least, to address Vaultek's problem, as well as some of the other problems that people have been addressing, is to come up with a better view of what's going on in Avalon, being able to target specific users and finding metrics about them so we can maybe identify bots a little bit easier, and so on and so forth. If anybody is not aware, I think it'd be kind of interesting for you to look at RuneScape circa 2007 versus now. I had a pretty heated discussion with somebody about defeating bots, and I think that is an example of exactly the sort of system that we could implement. And basically what I mean to say is, we're not going to be able to make the economy foolproof. There's always going to be people who are going to find ways to take advantage of it, just as in real life. We just have to make the amount that they can take advantage of not that damaging. Same thing with bots. We're never going to defeat all of the bots. We just have to make it as big a pain in the ass as we possibly can. And that's basically it. Anybody else have anything about the economy?
Yeah, so I want to mention one thing. This is kind of a more long-term concern, but it is important. So for some perspective on the sort of and I mean, these are sort of well-known details that I actually, back in the day when Avalon was first being developed, I talked a lot with Heimerdinger about this. And the thing is DTC increases at an inflation rate of about anywhere from 50% to 2 times every year. So in 1 year, there will be about 2 times the DTC right now in existence, roughly, give or take 50% or so. So that's one other thing, is the inflation rate is pretty fast. And we should be aware of that when considering price metrics and prices changing and all of that other things, as well as just the economy as a whole. The rewards, the actual value of those rewards will continue to decrease as long as it's not, well, we actually have to give people more DTC especially for onboarding than we are currently now, but as more coins are in existence, and thus the price drops long term. Yeah,
I completely agree with that, which is why I think most everything should be tied to the price. So if all of a sudden now 1 DTC is an astronomical price, things will be done in fractions, the same way that they're done with Ethereum and Bitcoin. As the prices rise, everything just becomes a little bit more expensive. That's just the way it's going to go. I think the key here is to try and make sure that maybe 10 years down the line, we're not like at the 10th decimal place to do a transaction. And all of that stuff, again, I really just don't know about the economy. But as much as I do know, I have concerns about it, because ultimately the economy's got to be the most stable thing about this, because that's what's providing all the security. So in my opinion, we really do need to pay a lot more attention to this specific topic as opposed to really any other topic.
Hello guys, can I say something about the downvote rewards?
Absolutely.
Okay, basically I think that you downvoting, you will get the same reward by upvoting until the case that that video will get blurred. That's most of the time your aim. So basically, if you want to censor something, you will get less rewards because you will be the last one to downvote to get that blurred. But basically, the game theory that is used on DTube, at most, I think, I'm not sure it's only that one, but most of it is based on game theory, on mathematics. Basically says that your actions get influenced by the next action of the next people that goes forward your action or against your action. So basically, if you don't vote for Fist, then the second one coming will boost your reward exactly as if you both upvoted, but you're both down voting. But we should remember that if a video will get blurred, probably no one is going to downvote again.
I like the idea that things would work a little more like that, but I think that a lot of people are viewing downvoting as like a way of controlling videos, in that a downvote would mean that it wouldn't go in trending. But wouldn't that make trending only trending for good videos? What if something's so heinous that it receives so many downvotes, but I do want to see it? But even to that extent, I think it's even still up in the air as to whether or not we're going to keep the downvote. So I honestly, I don't know what to do here, but I do know one thing. I'd like for as many people to write up their plan in as few words as possible, so that the next time we talk about this, I can have more of a bullet point list and come up with maybe Vault-Tech's plan plus your plan plus some other people's input, and come out with some basic structure as to how I think the new system should work, or what we could do temporarily to fix some of the aspects that we have now. I'm not sure whether changing the downvote button is a good move as of now, but I do know one thing. I think a lot of people are becoming very upset about this curation thing. So
yeah. Well, what comes into play, and this happened between you and I, is this question of earning money, right? Okay, so I flag you. I don't want you to earn money. I'm just throwing a flag on there so you're not taking away something at a later date without hopefully having to spend more money to get it. It's kind of the general idea. Alert the community. Okay, so I did my job. I was being a butthead. And now that brings forward the question of how do we, stop this problem, right? So the flag is kind of essential to the curation, but the outcome of the flag, I think, is where we have dropped the ball, in that it should be overturnable. Essentially, the effect should be overturnable. Maybe not the result of the flag on the reward, right? So we're talking economy, flag on the reward, and but if we're overturning the other aspect, the visibility in some means, so if the video falls into, as you were stating, the heinous category, so trending in heinous that you want to see it, well, we should have like the trending shit list or something. There we go. I dropped a Dookie live, guys. If anybody's watching, there's your time frame.
by disliked content, I merely mean, remember that time when President Trump got his Sharpie out on that little display?
Yeah.
So many people on YouTube disliked that. I found it hilarious. Frighteningly hilarious. And that's the sort of thing I want to protect against. But to get to the point of content curation, the only way to fix it is to stop incentivizing people from doing it. It's not.
Well,
it's so easy to do it that of course people are going to do it. And especially when your first few uploads are so critical to the success of your account that it makes it even more likely that somebody's going to reach out for some highly popular content to try and get their account up off the ground. So my thing would be, if you fix the IPFS section, you make some sort of easy uploader through the JavaScript IPFS, get rid of the servers and just kind of make it look like YouTube, but functions like IPFS, and just drop the YouTube upload altogether. Then we could start to fix this once and for all. But another good thing that we should fix is the separation of DTC and VP. We need to be able to generate community things without money being involved. And so that's where the whole rethought of the system comes in. But
Yeah.
again, it's
Yeah.
such a huge thing to change that I think ultimately what needs to be done is somebody needs to go through, and I'll probably do it, and add up all the different points that we've made up and try and factor that into some sort of alternate system. I've been playing with some myself, so maybe next time we meet, we can propose a plan of action at least. Till then, I think we should move on to the next thing because we've got a little bit ways to go. But I would like anybody who has any ideas as to what we could change on the economy, just DM it to me in Discord. And I can put it into my GitHub and begin to come up with an idea, starting with more charts. And I'd like a test net where we can start to have custom-made bots screwing with the economy to see if we can break it in the test net before we put it in production. Any closing remarks on that, though?
Burning of flags, I believe, will help the economy.
I think like in the economy subsection about liquidity, DEXs, and exchange. Basically, like even though if someone finds out about DTube and likes the project, want to some DTC, it's quite an hustle right now. And also like when we are making these bridges like Unis ERC20 and BEP20 bridges, it always got some interest from what I call them like gem hunt. Basically, they track the newly released contracts on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, but due to having a really low trust factor because of liquidities, DTC Ethereum and DTC BNB pairs, it always like end up losing that interest day or two. Like token pumps $2, we got like 400K trading volume, and then it just flops because like we don't have enough liquidities, and it's what blocking the health of the TC right now. Besides the technical aspects of the design, I can't say anything about this honestly. But I would like to brought up this problem. How are we going to grow the liquidities, or how we are going to like create an healthy gateway for people to.
Great point. Absolutely great point, Steaminator. Kind of overlooked that aspect. You recently pushed that farm with the BIP token. So yeah, that I believe is a good step in the right direction to help boost a bit of the liquidity that going forward, like you're stating, the gem hunters. If you're doing the shorter contracts and on a frequent basis, we can start to generate a regular trading volume, hopefully through the people that'll know to watch for those gems, right? Kind of what you're hinting at a bit there.
Like if we provide liquidity, I mean we are doing it. I have some liquidities, and since like didn't have any extra DT for DTube to be used, we were collecting DTC danger, and that's where the funds from for farming farming pool. And I mean, before even like starting aggressively promoting DTube core values, because we haven't done that Twitter or anywhere else because of the lack of organization. Everyone is like contributing to the project voluntarily at this point. Uh, yeah, we need the liquidities, we need users, and obviously, like everything we talk, these topics are attached to each other. So I have been like schmoozing around the like growing layer one projects like Luna, Binance Smart Chain, like like observing how they get people to their tokens. But like it doesn't actually suits what we have in our hand. Like those are like super gen 100x. Like everyone is like promising profitability or stuff like that. I don't know like how we will attract some people to, without like doing aggressive marketing and communication. And I don't even know like how long will it take. If you guys have any ideas on that, really like to hear it because that's what I spend my time recently.
I
um,
had. Go ahead,
uh,
Deckard.
Actually, bullet point number 5 is direction and next steps. I have a fair amount to say on this topic, but
Yeah.
I think we should get to the next point, which is on to development, because I think it'll actually be a little bit more useful to talk about the next 2 steps, which is development and then public relations, in order to address what your question is now, and that is basically how do we get from A to Z. So what I would actually like to do at this time is take maybe a 5-minute breather so that I may go to the washroom.
I'd like
coach
a
for everybody?
coffee.
All right, cool. Coffee, I need that too. So in 5 minutes from now, we will reconvene.
He muted me.
Dookie the music bot.
Yeah, is this your idea of a break music?
Yeah.
All right, I have returned.
As Deckard is our professional individual here, I'll just continue to be my goofy self.
I think professional is quite the stretch, but I'll take it.
You're more organized than I am.
Are we all ready to go? Anybody? Steaminator's muted, but
Yeah, he didn't like my music. He muted me.
well, we'll wait until 3:01 and then we'll go ahead.
All right. Oh, there he is.
Oh, okay. All right, so I guess we'll get into the next section, and that's development. I should probably start with what I've been working on and what I think the best steps would be. Maybe I need to do some backpedaling, maybe I don't. So I'll put forth what I think I'm gonna be doing, and we'll try and see what at the end of this we should all collectively be doing. So in my opinion, we shouldn't be using JavaScript as the backend. I'm sure you can do it, and I'm sure it's very fast, but the amount of development time is very high. The amount of back-end developers that know front-end languages is very low, so you're going to get a lot of front-end developers trying to make REST APIs, which end up being a little bit confusing. So in my opinion, we should switch languages. I don't care which language it is, personally. It's just I know Java like the back of my hand. That's the first language I learned, and that's the language I use 99% of the time. I could do Python. I'd like to learn Go because that's what IPFS is written in. But my personal opinion is the amount of work that I've gotten done so far just in the language is well worth it. If we end up developing everything in Java and it's a great first start, and then later we say, well, actually, we'd like to rewrite it in Go, I still think it'd be better to take this stepping stone rather than continue down the path of JavaScript. Primarily because of ease of use. It's so much faster for me to develop in Java, not only because I know what I'm doing, but also because so many things are annotation based. So for example, if I wanted to include GraphQL as part of our backend, I literally only needed to add one annotation to a certain section of the program, and now all of a sudden GraphQL works. So that's why I went with Java. What I'm doing with the backend is basically rewriting all of the endpoints to make it a little more object-oriented and make things link together a little bit better, not only because it's easier to understand, but also because I'd like to switch over to MariaDB, as mentioned previously, for the sake of easier statistical analysis, so that people who are more into looking through company databases, they're going to know SQL as opposed to the way that Mongo does its queries. The reason for the rewrite of the API is the endpoints needed to be extended. We need more functionality added, like playlists, being able to hide videos from people because unlisted doesn't necessarily hide it. Other things including the inability to double post YouTube videos, so more verification of data. Anyways, to put it shortly, everything's be written in Java, so the backend's pretty much the exact same. It'll be fully compatible with what I'm dubbing version 0, or the version that came before me. So you can convert all of the data that's inside your MongoDB into MariaDB, and you can use technologies at once. With that rewrite of the backend, I think a rewrite of the front end is probably in order. In my personal opinion, the front end written in Meteor is good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little clunky. And some things are a little bit broken. So I think it'd be better for us to rewrite in a language that's a little more well-known, such as React. Totally open to ideas because I don't do front-end at all. I don't know how to write one, but judging from what I've talked with other developers in the community, they know React. So that might be a better idea for us there. I think the combination of those two things, having two different languages, Java and JavaScript, allows us to have more developers at our disposal, but I think we're also putting our resources in the wrong areas and thinking of the project in a bit of a strange way. And by that I mean, I think a lot of people are confused as to the limitations of the blockchain and its implications on the REST API. They're two different things, really. So supposing we wanted to rewrite the REST API in Java, that certainly doesn't exclude us from using JavaScript as the blockchain language, thereby meaning any work that's been done with the logic to make the blockchain work doesn't have to be rewritten. Simply need to ditch the REST API and have it funneled through in a different means. As far as gaining developers go, I think it really boils down to our biggest problem, simply a lack of structure and a lack of documentation. Things need a better workflow with issues, how work is done, prioritizing work, input from the community, and just generally life cycle issues so that developers are more easily able to come in, look at the issues that need to be done. The issue outlines exactly what work needs to be done. They do the work, they submit a PR, and PRs are checked daily, so their code is inserted rather quickly. And then just in a kind of brief summary, because I feel like I'm rambling, I want to kill off all the servers, get rid of the file uploader, get rid of YouTube, pack everything into IPFS, so it's just CID that we go to load the web UI. I want to make everything a program that's very easy for the leaders to run. I don't want anybody to have to know how to install MongoDB or anything like that. One of the many beauties of Java is I can publish a jar with everything packaged in, and so long as you have either running Windows or you have the dependencies installed in either Mac OS or Linux, the dependencies being like FFmpeg and things like that, then you can just run the program and it'll just work. And basically the program will be a web UI that's hosted locally on your machine with an Avalon backend running, and you would interface directly with the Avalon backend. So when you quote unquote upload files into your web browser, you're actually just uploading a file to a different program on your computer, which is running it through FFmpeg and pinning it into your IPFS service. Adding more support for IPFS pinning services would allow these people to shut off their computer. And so that's basically it. If we rewrite the backend, we change the way that we're doing issues, and sort of make one program that's just an exe that they run, then I think it'd be a lot easier for people to use it and a lot easier for developers to take the focus off of developing the backend and more on developing what you guys actually want to develop. Because I don't see any one developer primarily interested in developing the backend. People are interested in developing their own IPFS pinning service or real-time streaming services, or we've got computer games being written and things like that. So I want to position us more of a data provider than a platform service. Leave it there, I guess.
I wouldn't mind hearing from Tech Coder on the dual languages if he's up for talking. Might not be.
Hey.
Hi, guy. How you doing?
Oh, okay. So, one thought that I have is that like we have different implementations of like the important stuff like a Avalon, for example. Like we have, like for example, it could be written in at least 2 or 3 languages. That's just my thought about it.
I've heard that before, and I honestly don't understand why. If we want Avalon available in several different languages, why is this? Is it because you want to develop a program in that language? Because ultimately, the way that I want things to work is my backend will serve up CSV, XML, JSON, TOML, YAML, CBOR, protobuf, and GraphQL. So if your language knows any of those file formats or technologies, then you simply just use those technologies to interface with the REST API and continue developing your language or your program in that language. What I really, really want to stay away from is a version of Avalon in several different languages. In fact, I want us to pick one that the blockchain uses and stick to it. If that should be JavaScript, then I'm not sure what I'd do. I'd probably end up developing more support programs. The reason why I'm making a push for changing it to Java is because I'm currently the only person that can put in the amount of hours required to bring the backend up to a stance where we could have the functionality. Because I think that our primary problem is is the backend. Once we get a proper backend written with proper documentation, then all sorts of JavaScript developers can come along and develop their own front end that works with it. Because I honestly don't think we're concerned about the front end. The front end is really just some fancy bauble that we added on to Avalon. Avalon is our bread and butter. As long as we protect the value of the DTC, that's what we should be interested in. And the only reason why we're developing a REST API is so that people can interface with the DTC, and that's all we should be concerned with.
I grumble to that statement. I'm creator by heart, so for me it is the front end and everything else is second. So it kinda, I agree, but slightly disagree in that we should be building. Like, I like how you're saying serving data. I have a hard time getting my brain away from being a video-oriented platform, though.
Well, it's not to say that we're not a video-oriented platform. What I mean to say is we should stop putting our resources into thinking that we're a video platform, because we're not. We're a blockchain platform whose blockchain is used for video purposes. I simply mean to say we have such limited resources, we can't be focusing on the front end all day. If we put our limited resources into fixing up a proper back end and allowing other people to create their own third-party front ends, then at least we have third-party front ends. In fact, we could even bundle our own front end with it, which is what I want to do, but I don't think that should be our primary focus. I think we should really just pump out a front end as quickly as we possibly can while making it good and user-friendly, and focus mostly on making good back-end API endpoints. And the reasoning for that is our collective interest is the value of DTC. If the DTC value means nothing, then what good is the video service? The reason why everybody uses the video service is because of the value. So if we can pump up the value by opening up the endpoint so that, for example, is it Will Jim-Man? He's writing a game that works with Avalon. It's got nothing to do with video service. So we're not a video company. We're a blockchain company who has API endpoints that just so happen to cater to video.
Yeah, and I did happen to tell him that if he happens to get in the leaders crowd and pushes what he needs for his game, we would likely conform to be able to fit his needs. And
yeah, but why be reactive? Why not simply say right from day one, it's open, you can do whatever you want with it?
That is kind of what I was hinting at, is like the way you said it really kind of angles it correctly, I believe, where we are developing it from a backward standpoint where we're looking at the end product and not creating all the tools to allow people such as Voltic to easily create the tools for our One Love community. He's done a little bit of investigation into the API as well. So I think you'd agree that it'd be a beneficial move to allow third party to plug and play with Avalon. If you want to interject.
Well, yeah, not just that, but like improving it. Like I found that you can't even query for a transaction by its transaction ID. So to actually get it, you have to do what TechCoder is doing, where you put a secondary API on top of it that interfaces with the database. Or in my case, just query the account or my account, because I'm really only interested in my account for the moment, and hope that I get the transaction ID that I want.
This is actually no longer the case, as I already merged everything in the extended API into the main repository.
Oh yeah.
So the TX API and all the ranks, leaders and stuff are already part of the main set of APIs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, I forgot about that. But initially, before that, we didn't have any of that functionality. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of other like very basic things that just don't exist like that needs to be triaged and actually built.
From a REST API standpoint, nothing against anybody that made it, but internally I'm screaming because the resource usage on this system is, it works, it does work, but it's using a lot more too. And for example, just being able to query a transaction ID should be relatively simple, which is why I'm trying to take over that section of it. I really do believe that if we free the endpoint and give the developers what they need to make the products that they want, then we'd be a lot more successful. If even just because almost every developer here is a front-end developer who creates support programs. They're creating uploaders or games or, things like that. They're not really creating the meat and potatoes. So if that's the case, then JavaScript as the backend language now doesn't make sense because the most amount of people that are developing there don't know the language. But in any event, I think we could probably move on to the next one now because I think we're losing a little bit of steam. But I'm about 60% compatible with the current API. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe even before the next time we meet, I'll have a prototype to show and we can reapproach this topic when that time comes. For now, though, the next one is public relations, which I honestly don't think that there's a lot to talk about specifically on that because I think we can do it in the next one. So we'll probably skip this bullet point and just jump right down to direction/next steps. And I'll get to what Steaminator was asking about earlier. I think now that we understand where I'm coming from in a development standpoint, I'd like to just say that I think that the ultimate best way forward is to stop attracting new users, trying to figure out what the users that we do have need, and then really just revitalizing everything user-facing. So we need everything documented. All of the tools need to be brought into central repositories. Like, for example, there are things that are coming out now that I didn't even know they existed. Tools or translation websites, or there's a ticketing system somewhere. I just don't know where it is. So all that stuff's got to be brought in. And ultimately that all starts with documentation. So we need to stop getting users, start documenting everything, opening up the back end endpoints, and then creating a new front end. And if we can master all of those things by creating a front end that's actually a lot easier to use, maybe with more drag and drop and so on, then people might actually be more inclined to use the web browser version, because I don't think anybody does currently. And then a rethink of the economy, the way that the VP works, and how new users get off the ground. If we can fix all that, and I think that that's relatively straightforward and fairly easy to do, aside from fixing the economy and the way that the VP and things work, that'll be pretty intense, then our marketing campaign will be a lot easier. I think that's important to approach the marketing campaign before we start approaching any vendors trying to get integrations, because I from the conversation that we heard earlier today about the reasoning why we're having difficulty in this area, I think it's no wonder why we are. I need to really just revitalize things and make the user experience better. A little bit more traction first, and then they might be a little more open if we're a little more persuasive.
Yeah. Yeah, the one note I would like to make on public relations is just reminding our leaders to be proactive on presenting themselves as a leader, particularly LinkedIn. You could set yourself as a leader of DTube. People will search you. That's all I wanted to say about that. The next steps. I disagree that we should put a stop to new users. But I agree that before we try revitalize, like, we shouldn't completely put a stop. We should allow Hyman Danger to release his new system and continue with allowing new users. But I agree with the needing to focus on the documentation, the lining up, how people get involved, along with what Steaminator mentioned, and that in your face, how do we use the platform, combined with the ability to then actually find the resources you need right on the main site. So I would say our main step that we would need to take next is to ensure that what we have currently in place is functional, which is like the IPFS uploader for thumbnails keeps breaking and causes people not to be able to post right after they arrive, right? That's like, in my mind, that's kind of a first step. If Hyman Danger is working on the sign up, we get the thumbnail thingy sort of arranged for our IPFS uploading, and we have some sort of documentation in place. People can figure out on their own how to operate the platform, and we keep it updated. We'll be able to then actually focus on like the back end writing.
I think that I agree with what you're saying. I think that if you are going to continue to draw users to the platform, then 3 things should happen. 1, the sign-up process needs to be fixed dramatically. Just the sign-up forms, the way that they work, there are errors in it where people are getting lost in the error and they're not able to create an account because they just don't understand what's happening. 2, the video that's there needs to go. That whole video needs to be redone, and I think that the best way to do that is to redo the video to explain all the things that Dookie just outlined, things that people aren't getting, and how to get off the ground from start to finish in a very smooth and personable way, something equally as quality as the thing that we have now. But I do think that that video should come down like now, because it's very misleading. And then finally, we have to get rid of the servers. Any kind of upload servers, they just gotta go. They're gonna continue to break, and we're gonna have a single point of failure. There is ways of doing image verification inside the browser, and you can spawn an IPFS instance within JavaScript. So if you spawned an IPFS instance in JavaScript, uploaded to it, and did image verification inside of the browser, then we won't need a server for that at all. We'd simply need a pinning service. If that's all that's required, I can very easily grab the IPFS pinning service library that I made for the endpoints that are required, and I can spin up a quick pinning service program that we could have implemented so that users could do it that way. Then it's not a single point of failure. They simply just have to wait for their video to upload from their IPFS to somebody else's.
Sorry, I'm chuckling here. I agree, Tech Coder. He's saying we need another meeting with the One Love IPFS team. I believe our One Love community has enough resources between us to facilitate any needs that may be required in the interim if you yourself don't, Deckard, if the systems are built. That's kind of been number one. Our community would love to spend all their time working on DTube, but we have alternate projects. Guilty as charged. I would love to see what you're putting out there come to life.
Yeah, I guess that's where all the pressure starts. I'm hesitant to bring anything out in full working order until it's exactly what I want it to be. But that Git repo that I sent you has a listing of all of the issues that I'm working on and has project management built into it, so you can see my issues working through. I believe it's called Kanban or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
it should be Kanban.
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate it. I want GitLab back. But the point being, you can see the things coming through. As of right now, I'm about 60% compatible with the current API, so I'm hoping in maybe a week or two I could have some sort of working prototype to show off to you. With response to nobody having any time, I understand that. People are very busy, especially in today. I have the very unfortunate problem of having too much time, so I have been devoting like a lot of hours towards this. My biggest problem is I don't know what to build until we have these conversations. So as of now, I've just kind of been building whatever I feel like and learning as I go. So these conversations are very helpful. I require more direction as to what everybody's trying to do here. I don't want to push anybody's project off a cliff, so to say. I just think that with this positioning of a brand new backend written in Java that I can devote all of my time into, having everybody else working on JavaScript things is probably better suited. If you do need more resources for processing, I have processing resources. Not a lot of very fast internet, though. The internet here is very expensive.
There we go. Yeah, I think overall we'll be pretty solid on resources amongst our leaders. Really, it'll come down to, like you're saying, trying to get communication and insight, particularly from the other leaders who will be able to review this. They can watch the live stream that's going out now, the recording, which will be shared. I'll put out the One Love post on DTube so people see it, I guess. And Deckard is doing a bunch of work to make sure it is documented and will be writing up a minutes, I do believe. So
Yeah, I'll be putting an IPFS link for all that content as soon as it's finished.
perfect. So where we go from here, Steaminator, do you have any insights for us? What would you say is like next steps?
In terms of actually what we talked several topics, but honestly, I don't understand tech. My vision on the product doesn't. Obviously, I don't have much ideas like how to, because everyone propose really decent stuff, and you just need to prioritize which one is the beneficial one.
Mm.
My only
Excuse me.
insights are in terms of
I
in
think
terms
that your
of
audio gets cut off because of voice gain detection, I think.
my voice.
I think so.
Yeah.
Sometimes I lose a word, maybe.
Yeah, I'm hearing you cut in and out too.
Mm.
Okay. Honestly, my only insight is about price of DTC and how we should increase the liquidities. And it's a simple plan. We talked about it. Fixing the UI, like pinpoint the gamification part, because when you vote a video right now, you don't even feel you did good or not. It like kills the gamification part, honestly. And then when we fix the simple issues like sign up and the UI part, because everything is like quite confusing for the new users, then we can actually aggressively like tweeting for Ethereum communities and Binance communities. We can like participate with other projects, because there are like small and successful projects popping out everywhere. And I honestly think DTube should be like as a first, it's a still big milestone, but I really think we should be medium for crypto communities. And maybe we would like to endorse it a bit, going for community to community, but as you said, it requires some organization and some workforce. That's what I think. And technical side, honestly, I don't have any idea like how to fix economy, and how to fix API and language. I'm just a Windows user button clicker, guys. Sorry about.
The thing that I'd really like to drive home actually is there is no one leader valuable to the project. Everybody has their strengths. Even though I know how to program things, I know absolutely nothing about how these economies work. I couldn't even begin to tell you how to tip something into our favor, how to not. That's not in my realm. So I'm very much dependent on people like you to tell me what the hell is going on with the economy, because I can only make things work. I can't make money make sense. So with the lack of documentation that's going on, I think one of the things that we need to do is establish, I guess, departments or areas of work. So in the project for the new backend, or the proposed new backend, I have a support department where all the support tickets go, and an administration and marketing, and there's the front end side and the back end side, and as well as the fringe side where all the research and development happens. So if we structure things like that, then all you'd really have to do, Steaminator, is join one of the discussions on the GitHub, start talking about what it is that you would require the economy to do, and then developers like me can come around and say, okay, that's what they want. Let's see what we can do to make that happen.
Yeah, I think like if like some organization gets done into that level, it will benefit like all of us, because like we launched the mainnet like 6 months or 7 months ago, and this is the first leader meeting. I mean, text can be really confusing sometimes, and we should make these regular if we want to organize and do a little building or revitalize, how you call it. That's what I mean. Think.
I do very much agree that this needs to be a regular thing. I don't really mind if it's once a month, once every 2 weeks, once a week, doesn't bother me. I feel personally, though, that it's going to be something that would be better suited for a every other week or a once a month kind of thing, because it's currently 3:30 a.m. here. And I don't particularly want to do it once a week like that. But I don't mind once every 2 weeks, and I super don't mind once every month. But what I'd like to see is more leaders coming out, or at very least once per month, leaders just popping in and saying, hey, how's it going? Because community involvement is key. And
I
two,
think
the GitHub needs more areas for people who aren't developers to contribute in writing what they believe. Getting things out of Discord and into proper documents is going to be very beneficial.
I think like if we want to increase leaders joining, because the ours were both clunky for both US and the Eurozone, we can make it like 2 times a month with different time zones, so it will be more flexible for other leaders to join and participate. But I honestly think like once a month is like most suitable one, because it's hard to get weekly progress, even with like stuff like marketing, texting with people, talking with other people. It takes time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Once a month works best for me. And actually, what I'd prefer to do is I do like doing weekly updates, but I just make DTube videos, I guess now, on my channel about what I've done during that week, so that other developers know what's been done and where we're headed. I don't know if that'll be applicable for every department, mostly because, for example, support and marketing are fairly easily viewed by statistics. But I think with that, that's pretty much it, unless anybody else has something they'd like to touch on.
You said video statistic, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. We talked about this many times, I think, and I was thinking that maybe video statistics on chain isn't viable, but maybe a second layer about some centralized service, maybe, I don't know, like database and front-end connection, because I think that making a transaction every time a user sees for X seconds a video isn't viable, I think. But I think we need video statistics.
I agree about that. I think that the answer to not making so many queries is simply bulk the queries together, and I think that that'd be easily doable through, I think they're called single-page apps, where everything just runs in one little thing, not multiple views. Video statistics, I'm assuming that you're meaning like view count and things like that, and a proposed thing that I have in the works is having a I'm going to call it a DHT because that's what I'm used to. It's just a list of places that you can connect to that is shared amongst a group of machines. So the leaders would share a list of all of the IPFS gateways that every other leader has. And those gateways are the gateways that you use to load DTube videos. That way, we can keep track of statistics that way. So if that were to happen, our resource usage would probably go up a fair amount because now we have to actually serve up IPFS content and things that have to get a lot more secured. So, I mean, it's doable, but what are the payoffs? I think what would be more interesting is if we logged statistics at the REST API, because that's the only area where data goes through. But statistically, what I'm aiming at right now is just really sifting through the database and coming up with metrics on what's in the database. So for example, how many videos per day, how many videos this week, this month, this year, who posts the most, who earned the most, so on and so forth. There's actually a pretty big ticket for the One Love community to create a front-end UI with graphs and such so that you can more easily see the sorts of metrics that Dookie used together.
There was one front end with a lot of statistics, not much publicized, but I looked for it yesterday and I didn't find it. Maybe it was shut down. I don't know.
I did see two different projects. One project was stats.dtube. I think that was made by Nanel. That one hasn't worked ever since I got here. And the other one is blocks.d.tube, I think. And that's the one that I think most people use. It's pretty
Okay,
good
the
for now.
Explorer.
Yeah, it's pretty good for now, but I'm from the RuneScape botting community, so I can only give you examples based on that. There's a website called GE Tracker, I think. It's an economy visualizer for the game, and it pumps out all sorts of graphs and metrics. And that's basically what I want to make, so that you can track what normal Bitcoin exchanges or what normal economies track. But I would be interested in seeing if anybody has any implementations for tracking statistics beyond capturing data at the REST endpoint. Aside from that, though, it is getting rather late, so I think we ought to wrap it up.
Yeah, that was good. I figured we covered quite a few topics for the first one. I would imagine next time around we're going to try come to some conclusion on something. That's the plan. One meeting we talk, next meeting we try to vote as well as continue discussion.
Yeah, that's hopefully the plan is you get a week to review the content, mull it over, decide what you want to do. And the voting process is going to be very, very simple. Every leader will get a vote. Those votes will be tracked in some way, shape, or form. Haven't quite determined yet, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it ready for the next meeting that we have. But certainly the third meeting, we will have actionable voting happening. So at the second meeting, you'll be informed of something that needs on, and in the third meeting, the vote will happen. The vote's going to be very, very simple. You're either for it or against it. No more discussion will happen. So basically, whatever gets discussed in the second meeting about actionable content in the third meeting, that's as much information as you get to know, unless you learn it throughout the week. The reasoning for this is to prevent circular discussions. We need to be able to say, this is the start of the discussion, we're going to discuss it for this amount of time, and then we have to just hurry it along and come to some sort of conclusion, and that is the voting process. So the idea is to make every leader vote in some secure way as to the direction of what we should be doing. That way we have one unified message. As far as actionable content right now goes, I would really love it if that video got the sign up page. So we need somebody to create a new video to put in its place, because there's nothing I hate more than taking something out without replacing it. And I think that that's at least a very good first step, because now at least the user aspect of it would be a little bit better. And I'd like to call for more participation on the site with leaders, whether it be hopefully liking content, whether it just be content that you found to be relatively decent, or disliking content that you disagree with. You don't have to have an opinion that is shared amongst all of the leaders, but any engagement in the site is good engagement, and I fear that many leaders aren't participating in it as much as perhaps they may. And yeah, that's about it. Anything else from anybody?
Points. Just tech coder adding, Hyman Danger is working on the new sign-up system. So to clarify what I would assume he's implying, we should kind of leave that video at least until Hyman has his system in place, and we can put up a proper video with the new sign up instructions at the same time.
Yeah, I was talking that like while he's working on that new system, we shall actually put out the video, and then when he's done, what he would just do is just embed the video like that.
So do a beta video in the interim.
Yeah.
All right, I could probably crank something out. If anybody's wanting to write scripts, this is one thing that we need, and is a great thing to end on as a final note for how the community can help us. You know that wiki we have with all those questions? How do I do this? How do I do that? You know, from how the wallet works to explaining the menu, where you find statistics. We need a list of things as well as the scripts written for that list. Now, we've kind of pinged this idea a few times, and once we have the scripts written and reviewed, TibFox, when he gets time, has a system set up to be able to produce professional videos to distribute on the DTube channel. What we could do in the meantime is, if we get the list put together and the scripts written, I could do my best to put out videos in my format from the One Love community to at least get the information distributed. And then that would be a start to what Deckard needs as the beginning of the walkthrough for people.
There is a wiki that I think is the best wiki so far that Crypto Info made that I would love to see put into the main page. So right now our wiki section is, sorry, let me just bring it up if I can find it. Yeah, our wiki page is a bullet list. So I'd like it to be like Media Wiki, or even whatever it is that Crypto Info's made. I think maybe it's a static HTML page. That would even be better than this. Just like pictures and things like that. So I'd like to at least vote that Crypto Info's wiki be the base, and that we update from that. And that will dictate what scripts need to be made, because that'll have a list of content that needs to be explained. And that should in turn produce for TibFox.
I think we actually just came up with our first actionable vote. Can someone give crypto info right access to the docs repo? The wiki page is based on that.
If he accepts, of course.
I'm pretty certain he would accept.
The
I can
info is here
check
me,
about it.
also.
I don't even know my access docs, but I did the info page. Like 99% of it, and it's just like it doesn't explain at all, and it
Yeah, crypto info redid one. I seen it at one point. If you could drop your link to your working page there, crypto info, just so we have reference in the general for everyone. I really thought it was a lot more inclusive. And if that's something that he's wanting to keep updated for us, I'm fully supporting it. So I just, right on Tech Coder's comment there about it in general, I just threw a thumbs up on it. I'm pretty sure no one's gonna say no. Anyone looking on the live stream, I'm bringing it up on here. So the main page comes up, and on the left hand side you have a nice list to look through, which gives you your information, and from there you can find your FAQ along with nearly everything. And as Deckard was saying, it's kind of media oriented a little bit. It's more refined, and it kind of matches the blocks, our block explorer. So from this, I could imagine on this page, once we have the videos, we could include the video on the page. So once the user goes like FAQ, how do I do this, glossary, you know, under blockchain, we could have a little video that actually explains what blockchain is, you know, if we get to that point.
Yeah, I think that's like really a fantastic first meeting if that gets accomplished, because that would mean that the rather misleading video would be taken care of, and there's a much improved documentation section. It would be something that I would definitely be interested in contributing to if it were to make its way into the front page, because there's probably a couple of things that I could elaborate on technically. But
Well, there
yeah,
you go, crypto info.
it could work, man. That thing's actually it helped me a lot, that's for sure.
Another one of the leaders I challenged into becoming a leader. This is awesome. I really enjoy this. This has been fun seeing you guys come together, now becoming kind of the backbone of what we're doing. Yeah. Great meeting, guys. Thank you, Steaminator, for joining us, adding your insights relevant to the economy and exchanges. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I really appreciate that everybody was able to make it, even the time framing being a little bit wonky for most of us. It did enlighten me a lot to at least just hear how you guys are presenting your ideas, where you're coming from. And the one big thing, at least that I see, is we all seem to be working together quite well. And I really do think that with the establishment of some proper structure and documentation, that we could really start to power through some of the issues that we have at quite a quick pace. But that's it. That's everything that we want to talk about. I think once per month is probably a good thing, so I'll try and arrange the next one. Same 5 points. If leaders want to talk, please let me know in advance. I actually am kind of in favor of ditching the whole rigid structure that I was planning before, because this worked out rather nicely. Aside from that, that's it for me.
Thank you for
Perfect.
organizing first meeting, guys.
Go team.
Go night.
Woo woo.
Good
One
night.
love, guys.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining, Tech. And you for solo.
Yeah.
And our
Thank you,
listeners,
too.
who do we got in here? We got Crypto Info right till the end. We got Looking. Tech Coder heard me say his name, so he poked his head back in here. Great show. I'm going to call the recording there and the stream. Love you guys. Shout out to you, Dev Deckard Kane. Thank you so much for pulling through. I have long needed someone to organize shows for me, and DTube really needed someone to help us with our documentation. Great work, Crypto Info, on that wiki.